So I don't think I'm breaking any new ground here when I say that it's become pretty obvious that doom scrolling has become an epidemic, right? But I wanted to discuss in this video that I think it might actually be a lot worse than we're even currently making it out to be. It's very mainstream at this point to acknowledge doom scrolling as a thing, right? And people even make these like cute little jokes like, oh yeah, I've been just doom scrolling, man. What have you been up to, man? Oh, I'm just doom scrolling, man. I'm just laying in my bed and rotting, which is another term that's going around. I'm just rotting and doom scrolling. But it's a real problem for a lot of people, and it's especially an issue, I believe, with this short-term, what do you call it? Small form, short form content that people are consuming. Mainly, I would say, like in the form of like shorts and TikToks, and honestly, a lot with X and Twitter, with the Everything app. Unfortunately, as much as I sort of like the whole thing that happened with X, I like that it was commandeered by Elon Musk, and I like that it's now become like a lot freer of a platform in terms of speech and things like that. I like all that stuff, but it seems like that app just can't escape the degeneracy. It cannot escape being a degenerate app for the most part. Because I want to make an analogy, I think the issue with all this is that like your brain can only really fire one way or the other way. You can only really be consuming something, or you can be like outputting or focusing on something. But the issue with all this short-term content and this doom scrolling is just that it's stifling people's creativity to such a high degree. It is stifling everyone's creativity. And I even had to get rid of X recently, to the point because I realized that X for me was one of the worst ones. I've actually like never had a TikTok. I've like never even made an account. I've never like interacted with that platform because I just kind of always knew it would be like a little bit toxic. But I would get on X and I would read all this stuff on X like nonstop, and it really just like fed into my type of brain. Like I like to read, I like to kind of get up to date on things happening, and I like to actually consume in that way of just these little itty bitty sort of posts, these little tweets. I got some like ink pen stuff on my finger there. These little snippets. So on X, at any given amount of time, X, formerly Twitter, at any given time when you're on your page, it'll be like you could see like four, maybe five different posts, and it's just like, here's a little video of like somebody got ran over in Bangladesh. This Indian got like ran over by a train. Okay, you saw that. And then you see the next video is like the space shuttle that launched just blew up. China just launched a rocket and it like melted and it exploded and it rained down over the city, and they don't really care because they don't have any regulations and they don't care about their people. Okay, good to know. And then here's like a video of like a cat eating a watermelon. Okay, cool. And then it's here's another video of like, I don't know, a dog with like a really big nose, and the dog is like meeting a horse for the first time, and it's like, oh, the dog is freaking out because it's meeting this horse, and you're like, okay, I got that. And then the next thing you see is like Trump is signing this order, and the administration is just like stagnating, and it's like, okay, I kind of feel bad about that. Okay, and the next thing is like Putin is he's ramping up his military drills and their nuclear drills, and you're just like, okay, great. And it's like so much information coming in at once that you get from X. You just get hit from every angle. And I just had to get rid of it. And it's the same thing too when I log on to like Instagram and you kind of go on the explore thing. You can just get the little reels and it just throws the short form content at you. And it's the same thing on TikTok, even though I've never had it. I understand what it is. It's just like constant short form content. And people say that like the TikTok algorithm is like especially addictive. Like they seem like they've really got that like ironed down. Like it's like crack. Like it shows you exactly what's gonna like spike the most dopamine from your brain. And the issue with all this stuff is that it stifles your creativity. It's like we used to pre-phones, we would still like offload our thinking onto something. We could read like a newspaper, or you could read a book, or you could play a game. You could find a little bit of ways to like get some of that dopamine, but it would be, I think, in like so much more of a healthy form when you were reading a book, even playing a video game. There's like there's this content going around right now, which I find really interesting because I've experienced like this exact thing myself. I've kind of started playing some more video games lately. I've been playing like Resident Evil 4, the remake. I did this mod where I've been like, or not this mod, I've been doing this emulation for like Jack and Daxter. So I've been playing a little bit of like the first Jack and Daxter. I eventually want to get to Jack 2 because that game is just, it's awesome. But it's like video games are now, we've gotten to the point where doom scrolling and people's brains are so fried that it's like video games are now being seen again as almost like a healthy alternative. And to be honest, I kind of agree. I kind of think that like compared to doom scrolling, video games are like not that bad. You're just at least you are like you're putting your brain to a focus. You're focusing on like a singular thing, a singular quest, a singular goal, and you're working out ways to accomplish that. And you are like following a narrative and you're being a bit imaginative. And there's a lot of times when you're playing video games where you can almost kind of zone out. Like maybe the task gets a little repetitive or this or that. Maybe it doesn't take your full brain power. So you can kind of be playing the game, but in the same time, in the back of your mind, you're kind of maybe, you're like processing some other thoughts and stuff. And so there's this content coming out lately where it's like I've traded my doom scrolling for my Switch, and I honestly actually really recommend that. Like if you can get away from doom scrolling and get back to like playing a game, or even sometimes like I do, it's like you play a game and maybe listen to like an informative podcast or like a long form YouTube video. I think that stuff is a lot better. But man, the doom scrolling is just so bad and people are so addicted, and it really is like the new form of cigarettes. Whereas before, there was like people would smoke a lot and everybody kind of had their different brand. You had like the Marlboros, Marlboro Lights, the American Spirits, the Luckies, the Newports, if you wanted the menthol or whatever. If you were a little bit trashy or something, you'd do the Newports. And there was like these different sort of brands of the same activity, which was like smoking. And we have that now with like doom scrolling. Everybody's like traded smoking for doom scrolling, but it's all kind of the same thing. You're on your phone, you're zoning out, you're like sucking up this dopamine from your phone. Either you're doing the Instagram Reels or TikTok or X, you're just kind of like zoning out, you're staring at your phone, and you're like, just like getting that little buzz or that little high. And it's almost similar to cigarettes where it kind of makes you feel like not good, like shortly after. You get that little hit, and then depending on what you're looking at, almost everything, it makes you feel bad later. But even the reason I talk about X, just as a side tangent, was just like you're getting so much like heavy negative stuff. Like I was pointing out, it's just like all this like political stuff. You go and you read the comments, everybody is like bickering at each other, everybody is so like mad at each other, everybody's got so much like energy to argue on there and just like yell at each other and just be like actually really really mean to each other. Like you wouldn't, not to be like the sensitive guy or whatever, it's like whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's like you really would not ever see that on a regular basis in real life. People never act like that face to face. It's like the internet gives you this sort of shield to just be like very, very mean to people. And I don't know, maybe some people, they just see that and it doesn't bother them at all. They can just ghost right over that. But I think I see that and it's just like, dang, man, like it's a lot of people being dickheads that they wouldn't do that in real life. They wouldn't be acting like that without the shield of the internet. And so we're getting all this content, all this stuff is coming at you, and it's all like taking your consciousness in all these different directions. You're like, here's this video of this, here's this information about this, here's this, here's this, here's this, and it's the brain is like a circuit, in my opinion, from what I can tell. I'm not an electrician, but I think it's like you're either outputting, you're being creative, you're finding something to do, you're focusing on something, and you're sort of coming from inside outward, or you're coming from outward inside. And the phones and the doom scrolling, it is like constant consumption, every little waking moment where you're not doing whatever you're doing, which is normally for people, the only time they're getting off of doom scrolling is like they're working, and they're usually working jobs they don't like. That's when they're getting away from the doom scrolling. But it's like, aside from that, every waking moment now of people's lives who are addicted to this stuff, which is like almost everybody, is like you're just sucking in all this information, sucking in nonstop all this content, every little waking moment, every little space in your brain now that used to be like boredom, it used to be like a little bit of a time for reflection. It's like people are sucking in content and like cramming that in almost as a way to like numb themselves, almost as a way to push down their own thoughts, because people's lives are so messed up these days. People's lives are so like, people are not who they want to be. They're not living the life they want to be. They're poorer than they want to be. They look not as good as they want to be. So I think these days more than ever, it's really scary for people to be alone with their own thoughts. It's really scary for people. And especially, it's like a vicious cycle. The more that you doom scroll, the more that you become a consumer, the worse your life gets, the more that you don't want to face your life. And so the more you don't want to face your life, the more you're feeling like you want to run away from it, and then you choose this doom scrolling and you run away from it more, you push those thoughts down more, you start making worse decisions, your life gets worse, and it's just this vicious cycle that people are just so hooked on. And I made the analogy with the cigarettes, and you see the title of the video is that cigarettes are actually healthier than doom scrolling. And I feel like in a way it's honestly true. Maybe not like physically healthy, maybe not acutely physically healthy for your throat, for your lungs, but I just think about like the people of the past who were like, they would smoke and they would like, first of all, the nicotine is a little bit of a nootropic. The nicotine has some proven like brain benefits for like focus and even other things like raising testosterone and just like whatever little scientific stuff, right? The science guys can let me know if they watch this exactly what the benefits are. Nicotine seems like it has like definitely some benefits, definitely probably some drawbacks with like blood pressure and whatever things like that too. But the point is, people used to smoke a lot more, right? And they'd go out and they'd have a smoke, they'd smoke their cigarette, and it's kind of cool, right? There's something kind of cool about it. I'm not a cigarette smoker, but there's something kind of just cool about the guy who just like, he finds a reason to go outside and he finds something to do with his hands, and he's enjoying the nicotine, he's enjoying the buzz, so he doesn't need to get the buzz from his phone. Or back in the past, they didn't get the buzz from their phone. They were just out there with the cigarette, they were smoking, and they were either like socializing with the other people outside, or they were just kind of doing that thing that you see the smokers doing sometime, right? Where they're just kind of enjoying that cigarette and they're just kind of like staring off into the distance. They're just kind of like staring down at the horizon and they're just kind of like enjoying that smoke. And you can tell they're just going through like a little bit of self-reflection. And I think that's a huge positive thing. And I'm not like saying people should smoke, but I think that little time and that time that people used to have in the past for self-reflection was something that we are just like, we're sorely lacking today. Because now, instead of smoking and instead of having that time of thought, and you're standing there and you're looking cool and you got the cigarette and the smoke is like, depending on the atmosphere outside, right, depending on what kind of day it is, you know, sometimes it looks really cool when it's like a sunny day, the smoke will have like a certain effect, you can see it better. Sometimes when it's like a little overcast and rainy, it's just like the lights hitting it, you know, look, you're sitting out there, you're looking cool, you're reflecting on life. Instead of that, now when people go on a break, when they get some time to themselves, they are going on their phone and they're consuming this content. They're like reading short form content, they're reading stuff on X. They're not having time for reflection, they're not meditating on their own life. They're just sucking stuff in and they're just filling up their brain more, and they're consuming more content and just numbing themselves with this content, and just not not ever taking time for themselves. You know, there's like that famous saying where it's like a man's success comes down to like how comfortable he is alone with his own thoughts. And I think it's like more and more and more rare these days to find people who are really comfortable alone with their own thoughts. You always want that thing to like placate you. You always want that thing. And it used to be a little bit okay. It used to be, you know, you get on the video games, you'd watch the movie, you'd read a book or something, you know, and you know, you'd escape your own thoughts a little bit. But that stuff was like slower. That stuff was like, it was a little bit of a combination. You know, you'd get a little bit of stimulus and then you'd have to reflect on it a little bit. You know, you'd read a book, you'd get a little bit of a something interesting would happen, and like the reason you would find it interesting was like, oh yeah, I remember like this reminds me of that thing that happened in my life, and it kind of gets you thinking about that. It gets like your imagination going. But the stuff on the phone, it's just so poppy and like stimulusy and just so like off in all these different directions. There's no real way to like relate that to your own life. You're watching, it's like a video of a race car, and then it's a video of this politician, and then it's like somebody's getting shot, and then it's like a fight breaks out. You're like, there's all these like fight videos and stuff online, and it's just like, you're just, this stuff is like hitting you and it's like soaking into you. And I don't even think people realize it. You know, there's something your eyes will do. There's something your eyes will do when you look at like a bright light. And you know, you ever like look at the sun, you ever like stare at the sun? It's like a habit of mine. I just like to just stare right into the sun. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really do that. But you know, maybe you glance at the sun for a little bit, or not even the sun, just a bright light, you know, there's like a spotlight, or there's headlights coming at you. And then you can kind of close your eyes and like the light is still there. It's been like absorbed into your neurons for a little bit. It takes a while for that light to fade. And it's uh it's like going into your brain. And it's not like that with just light. It's actually like that with like everything. It's like that with music. It's like that with sound. It's like that, you know, when you're rollerblading for a while and then you stop, you feel like you're still rollerblading. It's like that with everything. And it's like that with all this content we're consuming. So you watch all this destructive stuff, you watch these fight videos, you watch this like high cortisol, just thing after thing after thing. And it feels like you're just forgetting about it immediately. But like we are soaking that stuff in, and it's covering up your own ability to bring forth your own thoughts on things, bring forth your own meditation on your life, and to like construct your own sort of clear thoughts. I think that's why a lot of people too are feeling like so like purposeless. It's like everybody's so purposeless these days, and it kind of coincides with this rise of doom scrolling. And I think it's hard too. There's obviously there's a lot of choices these days. You have the whole internet, which is kind of what we're talking about. But we have all these choices. It wasn't really like it was before, where it's like, you know, my dad was a blacksmith. He's going to train me to be a blacksmith. I'm just going to be a blacksmith, and life is simple, right? We have more of these choices, but also we have so much more of this content and this stuff that is clouding our thoughts. So it's like people are like, oh, I'm purposeless, I'm purposeless. But it's like, how much time are you actually spending reflecting on your life, reflecting about the things that are like important to you, that are bringing you happiness, not even bringing you happiness, but just reflecting on the things that are important to you, or like things you want to pursue more, or like decisions you want to make that would be beneficial for you. How much time are you reflecting on your old decisions and being like, okay, this was maybe like an immature decision. This was a rash thing that I did. I acted this way in the past. Okay, I thought about that for a minute. That was me in the past. Let's try moving forward to not act like that again. It's like it's the doom scrolling, the constant consumption, you know. Doom scrolling is like a simple term for it, but what it is like consumption of content. It's consumption. It's just whatever you're using to not hear your own thoughts. It's like it's stunting people's growth. It's stunting people's growth because they don't ever get the time to reflect on themselves. It used to be a lot of time for reflection in the past. And really we are evolved, we are calibrated biological creatures to have a lot of time for reflection. And I think that's why you'd see a lot of people in the past, you know, it seems like they get older faster, maybe they're a little bit more mature, there's more like man children and stuff running around these days. We are like a organism that is calibrated for having time for reflection. And just think about the way we used to live. You know, it'd be like you'd be out, you'd be hunting, gathering, you'd have these intense moments of focus on something. And then when it was time for reflection, it wasn't like content consumption. It was like, all right, let's like sit around the fire, let's think, let's sit on the porch, we'll have that smoke, and we'll just kind of like listen to nature, look at the stars, talk with each other, reflect on that day. It used to be a lot more balanced, right? You would have a day, and then you'd have the time at night. You'd have like that cooling off period. You know, it's the yin and yang. You'd have like the yin of the day, and then you'd have the yang of the, or you'd have the yang of the day, and then you'd have like the yin of the night, where you would have time to like cool off, and you can actually, it was balanced. You'd probably by the end of that day, and by the time you woke up the next morning, you've kind of like, you've processed that day. And now it's like things are just happening, happening, happening. And we barely get the time to even process the things that are happening. Things will just happen, they happen. It's like, damn, it's like, this is why I think people feel like so many people are like so unconscious these days. Like people are just like, they're out there, they don't seem like they're thinking straight, they don't seem like they're prioritizing their health or their future. It seems like nobody's thinking straight these days. And it's like, well, we're not giving ourselves that reflection time. And nobody in society, there's no real guidelines, there's no real big brother, or there's no government mandate, or there's nothing like that that's really encouraging that. Like you are basically free to just ruin your life. Nobody's really talking about this stuff so much, except just like these circles online. It's kind of just the status quo. It's just like be on your phone all the time. You almost need something external to just be like, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea. It's almost, that's like the status quo now of society, is just like work and then sit there on your phone, and it almost, you're like an outlier if you can break away from that. But yeah, I think it might be, the doom scrolling is actually worse than what we're being told. Like I really think it's something we need to actually take like really, really seriously, and you really need to like make the decision of like, you know, we were the first generation of people who were like bombarded by this. The phone and just kind of showed up really not that long ago. It's been like a common thing now for, you know, I would say like 15 years or so. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly when the iPhone came out. It was like 2008, but maybe like mass adoption by like 2010-ish is when people and younger people really started getting like, I'm talking about like legit smartphones, like iPhones with like the screen and the apps and stuff started coming out. So we've just kind of been hit by this, blindsided by this. And it might be up to us also to finally kind of make the conscious decision to be like, Am I just going to go along with the momentum and just get swept away by this? Or am I going to think a little more critically and be like, okay, maybe I need to make the conscious effort to kind of put this away a little bit and think like about the direction my life is going? Because it's a new thing, we've gotten bombarded by it. We've gotten ambushed a little bit by it, and we just kind of accept it. And now people are like, man, my attention span is just, it's gone now. Like my attention span is gone. I can't even focus on video games anymore. Like, it used to be such a stimulating thing to play a video game. I wouldn't even need to listen to like a podcast or anything. I would just play the video game and enjoy myself or read a book. And now it's like I can't even read a couple pages of a book without feeling like I want to go back and check the news and stuff. And it's just, it's overrated, man. It's overrated always looking at this stuff, always being informed. And yeah, especially with X sometimes, man, all that information. This is happening over here. This is happening over here. This is happening over here. I almost appreciate some aspects of Instagram, not like the reels, but like I almost appreciate Instagram more, where it's like, at least I can just look at some nice ass. At least I can just look at some hot freaking ass, and it's just like, it's beautiful. It's got that bikini just like wedged up in there. And it's just like, oh man, it's like, at least I can just like look at something inspiring and just like beautiful, right? At least I can see that, and it's like, man, maybe I want to try to get my life together a little bit. But man, it's like, some of this stuff is so degen, just information. This is happening. Oh my gosh, look, it's like some ducks that are running across a pond. Okay, I'm putting an engine in this fake duck. Now I'm gonna go chase the ducks around. And it's just like constant consumption, no time for reflection. And I feel like that's really what's separating like the subhuman people from like the people who are excelling in life these days, is like the people who've made the conscious decision to sort of step away from it and be like, okay, instead of all this consumption, maybe I can try to like regain a hold. And then it's like waking up from like a zombie apocalypse in a way. You're waking up from this like epidemic that's going on. You look around and you're just like, damn, everybody's been zombified by their phones. You look around and you're just like, this really is like a contagion or something that's just taken everybody by storm. Everybody's been just taken over by the phone thing. So you pull away from that, and it's like you're popping your head above the water, and you're looking around, and you're just like, man, everybody is just jacked by the phones, by the doom scrolling, by the consumption. Everybody is just jacked, man. Just taken over. But I think if you can pull away, because it does take effort and it is a little bit painful, and it's kind of like unplugging yourself from the matrix, so to speak. It's like you're unplugging yourself. But if you can do that, the interesting thing about it is like, so many people are just taken over. And if you want to get away, if you want to excel, I almost feel like it's more possible now than ever if you can just kind of pull away and clear your head and like distance yourself from the epidemic of the content consumption, and just sort of try to come back a little bit to reality and like, yeah, just give it a try, man. Like, get back to just give it a try. Just delete your like favorite app or something for a little bit and just like see what your mind does. It's probably going to go towards like stuff that's bothering you. It's probably going to go towards like, oh, I have this like credit card balance, or like, oh, I have to deal with this thing. And it's like, you probably have this little list of things that are bothering you that you haven't dealt with, that you're using this stuff to push away. And that's kind of where I feel like the journey begins. It's like you get rid of that thing that is like blinding you, and then you start to address the things that are really important. Maybe they're kind of uncomfortable, but you start to finally like clear away the mud from your life. And I think that's like the way that you can start to make a better life for yourself. So that's my thoughts on that. Maybe start smoking cigarettes. I don't know, like it's I don't know, guys. It's like it's a lot of people are struggling, right? A lot of people are struggling with money, with who they are, where they want to be. So I don't know, man. I used to be kind of against like all this stuff. I used to, people are like, they're trying out, TRT and peptides and things like that. And I used to be like, I don't know. But now I'm just kind of like, I don't know, maybe look at what life is, look at what the status quo is. The status quo is you're just like living this miserable life where you're living your whole life through your phone. So I don't know what maybe you got to start taking steroids and like smoking cigarettes, and you got to like start going to bars and drinking or something. I don't know. Like maybe it's the opposite of what we've been told, where it's just all this like, don't do any of that kind of stuff. Just live a very safe life. Like I'm at the point where it's like something drastic kind of needs to happen if you're actually serious about changing your life. You got to start. You're like you're in that bottom position in jujitsu, and the guy is like got his weight on you, and it's like you can't really just sit here forever. You're gonna need to start like doing something. You're gonna need to start. You're gonna need to start making some moves. You're gonna need to try to just do a little bit of something drastic to like change your positioning. So I don't know. I would just start with deleting your favorite app and just trying to focus on a book. Try to focus on a game and see the things that come up in your brain and whatever those things are. See if you can find a way to, it's painful, but see if you can find a way to slowly start addressing those things. Even if you just focus on one thing at a time, even if it's just like, I need to pay this thing off, I need to go here, I need to file this thing. Just focus on like one thing at a time and start clearing it up and kind of suck it up. And I think your life will start to get better. So that's going to be it for the video today. If you enjoyed this little talk, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. I would like to know your thoughts on this one, so appreciate if you listen this long. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.